Welcome to Exhuming the Truth, a podcast dedicated to cold cases, missing persons, systemic injustices, and the forensic science that seeks answers when silence remains. My name is Asha, and I am a forensic scientist and criminologist, and in each episode we examine the evidence, the systems, and the human stories often left behind. This isn't just about true crime, it's about truth. It's about accountability, and it's about giving a voice to those who deserve to be heard. Thank you for being here. Let's jump into it. Hello and welcome to the first episode of 2026. This is so exciting. I'm really excited to be back. I have put together a lot of work over my little bit of time off. I hope everybody had a lovely Christmas period and found ways to relax if you could. I know it was busy and super hot over here in Perth, but I have been enjoying the sunshine with the kids and I'm just ready to get straight back into it. Like I said, I have been putting a lot of work in behind the scenes, and there's a lot of cases that need updating. We're doing lots of second episodes and third episodes for cases, and we have a lot of new cases coming. So we're certainly busy, but in saying that, we are never saying no to adding more. Like I try to tell everybody, we will just place you on the list, and as we get closer, you'll get the paperwork, and then I will get rolling, essentially. So we do have a new case coming up, a gentleman who is missing. His name is Gavin Moresby White. I just want to touch on this really quick. So Gavin was 68 when he was last seen. So that was around October 29 to October 30 in 2024 in the Upper Hunter area, New South Wales. So we're going to go a bit deeper into that in an episode for Gavin. We also have Scott Hayden. So Scott is 46 years old and has been missing for a little while in New South Wales. So he's been missing actually since the 30th of May 2025 to be exact. And we're going to cover his story in an episode as well. We also have missing Perth man Rob Snyder. We have a big updated episode for you on that one, and the search update. We are still actively looking for Rob. While we're not posting every single day now like we were in the initial searches, please don't think that we're not still searching. We are. We have a lot going on behind the scenes, and we will do a dedicated episode for Rob, an updated one as well. I've also been working away on Tristan Griffiths, who has been missing from Kalgoorlie. We did a initial episode for Tristan. We're doing a second episode for him and his family. We've got a few, extra analysis bits and pieces in that episode for you. It's just taken me a bit of time doing all the fact checking. We also have a big one coming up for Luke Gilbert. This is the second episode for Luke, who was shot by Queensland Police in Ellie Beach. And in this episode, we're going over a few extra things and also the evidence that is lacking that we really need to talk about. So without going into too much detail, we have that also coming up. Goodness me, what else have we got? We have another episode for Corey Feehan, who is missing in Lehman, WA. We have another episode for Jack McLennan, who is, of course, missing in Mergen, Queensland. And at the top of my head, I think there's a bunch. We've got a lot. Let me take a quick look in my notes. We have a few others here that I've got noted down, but I won't go into those because we haven't got the paperwork back yet. But there's a lot happening. So we also, of course, have Exhuming the Truth Hope Project, which is hopefully going to be a not-for-profit charity arm that is sitting with the ACNC and is actually with the lawyers at the moment. So all fingers and toes and everything's crossed that goes through and we're able to help more people and get a bit of funding so that we can get a bit more feet on the ground in these searches and a bit more help on the legal side of things for some families. So I will update you with that, of course. But today we have a brand new episode, so I'm going to get right into it. Before we start, this episode contains discussion of a suspected homicide and a long-term missing persons case. Listener discretion is advised, and you can find our full disclaimer in the podcast notes. In January of 2012, a 66-year-old man walked home after a quiet night at the pub in Boulder, Western Australia. He made it to his front door and then he vanished. No phone calls, No bank activity, no sightings, and no body. That man's name was Charlie Park, and more than a decade later, his disappearance remains unresolved but not unexplained. This episode is not about rumours, it's not about suspects, and it's not about speculation. It's about what we know, what the evidence tells us, and why police still believe someone out there holds a piece of the truth. Charlie Park was a 66-year-old man at the time he disappeared. He lived in Boulder, which is a suburb of Kalgoorlie, Boulder, in Western Australia's Goldfields region. By all accounts, Charlie lived a routine and grounded life. He had an established set of habits, he had a known residence, and he had regular social contact. From an investigative standpoint, Charlie would be described as what we would call a low-risk victim. And that really matters here because in forensic and criminological analysis, low-risk victims rarely disappear without cause. Charlie had no known history of cutting contact with loved ones. There's been no signs of preparing to leave his life behind and no financial activity after his disappearance. And critically, he required medication, which was left uncollected. From the very beginning, this case raised quite a lot of red flags. In the weeks leading up to Charlie vanishing, something unusual occurred. So graffiti appeared in a laneway behind the Recreation Hotel, and this is the same hotel where Charlie regularly attended. So the graffiti included Charlie's full name. Police have since actually stated that the content of the graffiti contained unsubstantiated allegations, which is why images released publicly have been partially obscured. And what matters here is not the allegation itself, but the fact that Charlie was being targeted in a public space shortly before he disappeared. That's an alarm bell, don't you think? And at the time, this graffiti may not have seemed urgent, but in hindsight, police definitely believe that it might have been significant. The 3rd of January in 2012, Charlie had attended this pub, and it was called the Recreation Hotel, and he went there with a colleague. And there's nothing unusual reported about that night or anything unusual about this for him. This is something he would do regularly. But later that evening at around 10 to 10:30 p.m., he left the hotel and he got home by walking. So he's walking home from the pub, and that distance was quite short, only a few hundred meters, so definitely doable. His colleague who he went there with walked with Charlie part of the way home. Now, the last confirmed sighting of Charlie Park is him entering his home, and then after that moment, there are no verified sightings. No neighbours reported hearing anything unusual, no confirmed movement, no communication. So from an investigative perspective, this creates a very narrow window of concern. So in the days that followed this time, Charlie's absence became impossible to ignore. His mobile phone wasn't used, his bank accounts were untouched, and his routine stopped completely. So come the 6th of January 2012, 3 days after he was last seen, Charlie Park was reported missing. So from this point onwards, police obviously began searching, and very quickly the case shifted. And what do I mean by that? So within weeks, police publicly stated that they actually considered Charlie's disappearance suspicious. So the major crime detectives became involved, and searches were obviously conducted across Boulder and all of the surrounding areas, including bushland, because this is quite a rural area. This is like Kalgoorlie, so this is kind of, the middle of nowhere, lots of abandoned mine shafts, that sort of thing. So Charlie's home was examined by the major crime detectives, and only one detail kind of stood out to them, and that was a recycling wheelie bin that was his and belonged to that place of address, and that was actually missing. So that was super odd. And on its own, that detail might seem minor, but in forensic investigations, it's not. Sorry, I have definitely not gained back my ability to talk very well, but, I'm doing my best. So again, if we're looking at this forensically, it suggests to us that it is possible that there was a post-event activity. So this is something being moved, something being removed, or something being concealed. And despite extensive searches for this bin, they couldn't find it. They couldn't find Charlie, and there was literally no trace of anything. So there was no forensic breakthrough, no confirmed sightings, no physical evidence that revolved around this case. And so it kind of just came to a standstill. So it's important to be clear about what this case doesn't show rather than what it does. So there is no evidence of financial motive or robbery or identity use or even voluntary disappearance. There's also no evidence that Charlie simply wandered off or chose to just go and start a new life. So from a behavioural standpoint, that scenario is quite implausible. And what the evidence does show is an abrupt cessation of all activity, zero preparation for departure, not a trace despite extensive time, and in forensic terms, absence can be evidence. And I've spoken about this before. No evidence is evidence. And long-term silence oftentimes points not to mystery, but to concealment. To understand, though, why this case has remained unsolved, we need to zoom out. So WA has a very unique investigative landscape. I think you will know what I mean when I say that. It's vast, it's remote, and concealment is actually quite achievable, unfortunately, particularly with local knowledge. And in an area like this, especially with local knowledge. And in resolved WA no-body homicide cases, patterns consistently emerge. The offender is usually known to the victim, violence occurs behind closed doors, and disclosure is delayed, and sometimes for decades. There's often secondary actors that come forward years later, and this doesn't mean everyone knows what happens. It just means that someone knows something, and that time changes what people are willing or able to carry. So come now, 2026. So this very month, January 2026, 14 years after Charlie vanished, WA Pol have actually renewed their public appeal. And why, you may ask? They actually released images of the graffiti again, and they've established a mobile police facility in Boulder, and they actually announced a $1 million reward for any information leading to an arrest or a conviction. So police aren't putting it lightly. They're releasing sensitive material, not through accusation. It's about more of recognition, and it's about conscience, I guess. So they've reopened, in a sense, this case that went cold, hoping that somebody may come forward and, people might be finding things a bit too heavy to carry. Charlie Park was a person with a life, with a routine and a place that he called his community, and he didn't simply disappear. And while this episode can't tell you who is responsible just yet, it can tell you this. Cases like this aren't solved by time alone. They're solved when silence breaks. We have actually made a second episode for Charlie Park called Offender Typology and Behavioural Logic. You're probably thinking, what on earth are you talking about, sis? And I actually have put this on our Thursday episode to come out this week. And what we're doing is talking about what an offender typology is, the different types of typologies, how this relates to Charlie Park and any cold case really, and we're going through the behavioural logic. So basically, in plain terms, we're going through the timeline, the facts that we have and the context that we have, okay? And then we're going to talk about, in a way, it is a bit of a suspect agnostic behavioural analysis, and we kind of can conclude at the end of that episode with all of the bits and pieces that we have, like a puzzle, pop them together, and we can get a bit of a profile analysis of the type of person that would be likely to have commit this crime in relation to Charlie Park. So I think you guys will be super interested in this. I put a lot of work into it. I think you will like it. You will learn a lot, and we might also have a chat about it in our brand new group, which I forgot to mention in housekeeping. So let's just quickly do that now to fill in the gaps for those who have no idea what I'm talking about. So we have created the Sleuth Society. You can find the group on our Facebook page. It is a Facebook group, and we're going through I guess, lots of different cases, lots of different scenarios, and breaking them down. And I'm trying to help you guys who are interested in this type of thing to learn a bit of things like offender typology and, victimology, and lots of different things that make up forensics and criminology to help teach you, educate you, and hopefully together we can come up with some answers for these families. But anyway, back to episode 2 for Charlie Park. We're definitely going more in detail into the lack of evidence, and we're going to jump straight into that and talk about why this can be quickly discounted, but why it's also super important. And like I always say, no evidence is evidence, and what that tells us and what direction that can point a certain case, in particular Charlie's case. So I hope you guys jump on that one and have a little bit of a listen. And thank you so much for joining us on our first episode back. We are going to continue to look further and further into this as we can, and we have a lot of new things coming up. So I hope you listen and enjoy and spread the word and help us make a difference, basically, across the entire country and soon to be overseas, which is another exciting thing for another time. My name is Asha Walther. I'm a forensic scientist and criminologist, and this is Exhuming the Truth. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have enjoyed it. If so, you can join us across all social platforms and on our new group, Sleuth Society, on Facebook. Have a beautiful day.